just recorded like half an hour, had a whole microphone incident, made me ravenously hungry. I had to go eat the fucking bar thing. Yeah. Welcome to Fine Hour.
Welcome.
I'm Laura.
I'm Michael.
I was just asking Michael about his shifts at work, and then I was saying what happens now after the last year of your residency, and you were about to answer me, and then I said we should start recording.
Yeah, we had this whole audio level up practiced and ready, and then it totally like
it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna be good.
So yeah, after that a person gets a job or can do more training, like relocate, network, and so yeah, I'm going over to the East Coast.
Really? Where?
Yeah, up in Connecticut.
What is you said you're gonna do more training?
Yeah.
In what? You're like CBT.
yeah.
Surprise, bitch.
But yes, as far as incorporating therapy into management, because that is not always the case or an option even. So yeah, I'm so excited. At the same time, I'm in New Mexico, and it's like the best time of year here. Like it's getting cold, and there's Balloon Fiesta, which is this crazy, they call it the mass ascension. Like you just go stand in this field before sunrise with like coffee and breakfast burritos, and then hundreds of balloons all take off at once, and it's kind
of
hot air balloons. It's like very dreamy.
That sounds lovely. Did they ever crash dramatically in a ball of flame?
I'm sure they have.
When I was a kid, we were at the fireworks at Pierce College, and we're all sitting, you like sit in the parking lot, we're in a lawn chair, and you know how like after the fireworks go off, the sparks come down, and you see them in the sky, and they look like that big. They look like little twinkles. One of them just kept coming down and down and down and down and down. And the lower they get, they're like yay big. It's like balls of fire. It landed in the lap of the woman sitting next to us, and everyone was screaming, and the paramedics had to come.
Holy moly.
I mean, I hope she was fine because it's a treasured memory of mine.
It somehow reminds me of like people catching, home runs or fly balls or something at baseball, but it's not.
Yeah, you're just catching the firework. Like, yeah.
Got it. Right. How about you?
Wait, say the thing. I wanted to do your shout outs again because those were important.
Yes. 2 shout outs. One to my friend Hannah, who said she listened to us gargling on here while she was breastfeeding her kiddo, and
which means her kid also listened.
Yeah, she said it was very pleasant, was her word. So shout out Hannah. And then my friend Davin, who's a linguist and was like analyzing our speech patterns, and said that he was like, she's totally from California because of a dark L, which neither
I don't know what that is, but I'm really excited to validate him. I grew up in the Valley. I was born on the west side. Well, I was born in Santa Monica, St. John's, and then I grew up in Canoga Park next to Pierce College. I was born in 87, so I grew up in the Valley in the 90s. What?
Is the Valley LA?
It's LA County. I think it was incorporated. I can't remember if it was unincorporated or incorporated around the turn of the millennium. It's considered like, or was in the 90s, the nasty part of LA that no one wanted to admit to being from. Like not like the like hard part, but just like the like, I don't know, the déclassé part of LA. As such, as I have grown older, I've become very proud of it. Because my mom, I remember, like never wanted to tell anyone we lived there and stuff like that. So now like in like my work bio and stuff, I say like I'm from the San Fernando Valley, which feels good.
Yeah, repping it, raising the flag.
Yeah, yeah. I lived there till I was 22 also. So
You see,
I got the whole
long ass time. And then we would have met in Nashville thereafter. Is that where you went immediately after?
No. Ooh, I had a little jaunt. I went to Cincinnati, Ohio for a year. Because of a person. And then I went back to LA, and then I went to Morocco, was there. And then after
Morocco is the story you told last time.
Yeah, I actually went to Morocco for 2 months when I was 19. That was just like me, like, I'm leaving. Which is, in retrospect, I went to Fez, which was, and lived there, which is like the most conservative city in, that's not a small town in the country.
Conservative in what way?
The most conservative form of Islam, and like just like the least westernized. The walled city there is like the oldest, I think, fully functioning medieval city that still exists on Earth. Yeah, it's really tight.
More so than Medieval Fair in Texas or wherever people go and
what is it?
What is it? Medieval Times or whatever?
Oh my God, Medieval Times. Dude, wait, I'm obsessed with Medieval Times for two reasons. One being that there's one in Anaheim in California that we went to. And second, and everyone we know is gonna have heard me already tell this story, so they're gonna be fucking sick of it. But that's my favorite part of the movie Grizzly Man, which is that the ex-girlfriend who owns the death tape met Timothy Treadwell when they were both working at a Medieval Times, I think in Colorado or maybe Nevada. And I'm like obsessed with that time of the story, which of course is not part of the narrative at all, but like I have so many elaborate fantasies about like the two of them interacting at Medieval.
Turkey legs or whatever. Have you ever been? I've never been to one.
I have. I was 13 when I went, so I don't know if it would be an accurate representation of what it's like now. Sure. It's like you don't get silverware, which is not. In the medieval era, you would bring your own knife to a dinner and you'd eat the food with, you'd have your knife in your hand. But anyway, they just give you like what?
It's very green.
What? Green?
Like earthy to like bring your own utensils.
Oh,
like I had a friend in college who started doing that as like
to the dining hall and shit.
Yes.
That's a point.
You knew Will brought like a cup around everywhere and stuff. He's a monk now. So
really?
Yeah.
I kind of want to be a monk.
Yeah?
Yeah, I fantasize about having like that's my number one alternate life I would like, is to be some sort of, well, I mean, it's anachronistic. I'd like to be some kind of like monastic person, but not in this era. I have, my friend did these two tattoos, which are this is from the Rutland Psalter from England, and this is from an older French one called the Petrus Comester. And then this one is from a German text called the Maastricht Hours, but
These are like illustrations or something. They were, I think I've seen them on like places before, but they were a little hard to see on the video right now.
Well, we'll link some pics maybe. But no, I love it because like the monks who did the marginalia designs, which are just like gorgeous and my favorite art on earth, but we're writing on vellum, with like a quilt. So my friend did them like lipstick poke, and I was like, oh, I'm the vellum or whatever. I don't know. It was fun.
Is vellum like
Sheepskin, stretched like sheepskin. Yeah.
I wanted to ask if it was skin, and then I was like, if it is
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
that doesn't sound
You're like,
correct.
is it skin? I'm a doctor. I'm going to do more training in taxidermy. Okay, I think that we've covered everything that got lost in the great audio fiasco. So can I tell people the premise of this episode?
Yes.
Okay. So I had proposed an interview model where I was going to interview Michael because I feel like I'm a conversation dominator, but Michael proposed we go back and forth and interview each other. So we made just like some lists of questions that we didn't have to do all of them. We'll just do it to fill an hour. And we're not asking each other the same stuff either.
That's right.
Also, reminder, if you're a first time watcher, the premise of the show is that we hadn't talked in 7 years and we are only talking to each other on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Coin. We should flip a coin like in
sport. Do you have a coin?
I have something.
You just don't flip something over. The point of a coin is that the weight is evenly distributed. You just flip random shit.
Well, it's gonna be a pick.
Okay, that's fair.
Turtle or blank?
Blank. I want blank.
Okay.
Wait. Blank means that I get to go first. Turtle means you go first.
Okay.
Only one flip.
Turtle.
You go first.
I go first.
Okay. Fair enough.
So my first question, in honor of the Fright Fest that's about to descend upon us, is the fuck you make of Halloween? What's the deal?
Well, in Los Angeles, Halloween slapped. Someone called it the gay high holy days, but all through like West Hollywood, there's like this huge parade with like the craziest costumes and just like tons of parties. And Halloween was like the best holiday in Los Angeles. Then I moved to Nashville.
Mardi Gras, the way you described it. It reminds me of Mardi Gras, the way you described it.
Yeah, Mardi Gras, but like a little better.
Gauntlet
I'm trying to think of how to qualitatively compare the two. I'm gonna struggle with this description too much. But anyway, so then I moved to Nashville, and Halloween in Nashville sucks dick. It is the worst holiday in Nashville. Straight up, it's all the only thing anyone in Nashville can think to do for anything ever is to book a fucking show. And because it's a holiday, they'll put like 6 bands on the bill. And then you just go and it's like people wearing like kind of phoned in costumes, listening to the same fucking bands you have to listen to the rest of the time. And then I just kind of did.
They're all doing the sexy costume too.
Yeah, I like a nice sexy costume. Nashville is just like speaking of the de-eroticization of culture, Nashville was not a very like hot place to me. LA is like hot. I don't like it there and I'm never going back, and my whole family lives there and I have no desire to ever be there again, but it is like Nashville's provincial, and people are gonna get really mad, but
it's this weird mix of like the entertainment. There's an entertainment industry, right? Which I think does bring out a lot of creativity. At the same time, it is in the place it is.
And it's real Jabronieville, and like I know that a lot of people have heard this already too, but it's like rich suburban white dudes who got into butt rock, and everyone thinks they're starring in a movie about their own life, and the kind of like collective sentiment is one that's very much on edge. You never really lapse into any real hedonism in Nashville. You have this kind of tense edginess socially, followed by what I believe is like a culture of like pretty profound violence against young women. So it's like you don't get that like pure bacchanalian experience there, because everyone is like on edge because of the performative aspect of every social interaction there.
Yeah, it's always Halloween.
And like I think that the vibe is like there's a predatory subtext, and as such there's also another subtext of other people being on guard, like there's a guardedness there. So people act like they're having a lot of fun in Nashville, like woo, like the performance of fun is really important to them, but like it doesn't actually feel like that feeling of release that you get in a truly like hedonistic environment. Does that make sense? Did you experience that there?
Yeah, when you start talking about performance of fun, performance of fandom, performance of friendship, it's just a big sort of, I'm thinking of like The Sims or like Half-Life, like these massively multiplayer online games. It's like that, but real life. Like people are, like you said, everyone's the star of their own show. At least, I got twisted in that way in my mind a little bit there of like, there's like, I think of the brand of clothes, local celebrity, and it's very this contagion of like, whoa, like I'm in the network, and like,
well, because there's one monolithic subculture in Nashville that comprises what in other bigger cities would be a collection of subcultures. So like the like punks and the like, like movie freaks and the like metalheads, and like every subculture is collapsed into one incestuous blob there, where everyone kind of knows everyone, and
like going to shows. That's kind of the
going to fucking shows, man.
They're so cool at first that like there's, but then I think of how there's like open mic at like Qdoba and stuff, like everywhere. It's just everything.
Yeah, and like I don't like the music that much. I mean, that's qualitative, but it's not really my jam.
Neither do so many of the people making it. There's so much emptying out in order to be this idea of.
It's really joyless. It's very, very joyless, and it's very nervous. It's like a nervy type of music. I don't know. I don't want to shit talk everyone. There's some good records, and that's what my partner does. So I'm just like ripping into our entire audience right now.
Nothing else we can say. This is how we were when we were there. This is how our experience and our context was.
Yeah, we were. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but yeah, I was like,
right, yeah,
by association, part of it, as much as they didn't want me to be. I think I antagonized a lot of people in Nashville, but that's one of my favorite things to do. There are some people who need to be antagonized. There are some grody people there. I think I became friends with Jessa. Hi, Jessa, who is younger than me, and she was kind of in between my age and the cohort of like much younger women there, but she and all of them had been through so much like psychosocial and sexual trauma in that scene at a young age, that I think that was how I came to understand it the most intimately. That and like Josh's experiences therein, which I shouldn't talk about without his consent, because I think it's a pretty fraught thing for him. But yeah.
Our lips are sealed.
Halloween in Nashville sucked. But I live in Baltimore now, and the first Halloween here, I can't remember why. For some reason, I didn't go do anything. We had just moved here. I don't remember what it was. And then it was pandemic. So this upcoming Halloween will be my first Baltimore Halloween. And I heard that Baltimore Halloween is bumping, which I would anticipate given the general nature of the city.
You would.
Well, John Waters is from here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, and all his movies were
Damn.
fire. Yeah. So not to bring it back to Grizzly Man, I don't know if I can't remember if that was on this recording or the rejected recording, but
I think it was this one. Herzog was on the one that crashed.
Okay. I was gonna be Timothy Treadwell, and anyone who wants to go out with me, like suggest whoever happens to be in town, I'm gonna try to force to dress like a bear. So it'll be like a group costume. I only need one bear, which can just be Josh. But yeah, I was gonna do like a do-rag, the glasses, you know, a handheld camcorder, and then just like 5 shirts and some like cargo pants and boots.
That is a good costume and a throwback. I mean, that's like, when did that peak? That was like around 2010 or something. Did that like?
Oh, it was earlier. The movie came out earlier than that. The movie was, I don't know, was it like 06 or something? But right. He was 90s when he was operational. He was so horny for those bears. Okay, so the first time I watched that movie, it affected me so deeply that I was just like weeping at the end of it. And then the second time I watched it,
his love for them, or his death, or his life. I mean, what was it that was like?
It was the Herzog narration, the way he sums it all. Yeah, he just fucking, he's one of the only people who can get me. But like induce emotions via art. But I might have watched it a couple times after that. But then I watched it with my friend Hannah, who is just a raging bitch in general, and also is listening to this. So hey, Hannah. But we were super stoned and we were watching it together, and I was older at the time, and we were like laughing so hard. We were just like in painful tears. Like my stomach hurt so bad. We were laughing so hard. What?
It is so funny. It's like this, it's like epic at the same time as it's totally comic, tragic, whatever.
Well, it's pathetic, and humans are so fundamentally pathetic. And I think that I have just like this like obsession with that type of pathos, where it's like I read somewhere when I was like 16 that as social emotions, and I can't cite the person who said this, I have no idea where I read it, but like as like social emotions, disgust and pity are actually very, very similar. And I think that I get stuck in this like you know, those like those desktop toys where the balls go back and forth infinitely.
Yeah, they like click.
Yeah, I'm like that, but it's like the disgust pity spectrum. So it's like I get like this like really profound empathic pity response, which is not humanizing. I mean, that itself is not like something that I think has any valor. I think it's a negative character trait of mine, but I like definitely romanticize pitiable people. But then I'll get into a different mood and I'll swing to like disgust and have complete just revulsion and contempt for the same individuals. And I think that movie elicits that in a way, you know, but on such extremes where he just causes this profound pity, and like there's just so much like pathos in it.
But I haven't seen him in so long. It makes me think about him. Like, what would compel a person? I don't remember if the movie gets into that. Like,
he's horny for the bears. No, it doesn't get into it, but it's obvious. I mean,
But the question then is like, how does that happen to a person? Because that's, you know, that's rare.
Okay, that's actually helpful. So, from a medical perspective, is horniness for bears in fact rare? Have
We
you
can
encountered that in your professional practice
we
at
can
all?
take a poll here between you and I and see how common it is on Fine Hour. Uh,
I
I
am not attracted to grizzly bears
Me
myself.
too. Me too. So we're 0 for 2. I mean, things
Yeah.
get displaced all the time. Um, so yeah.
Is that transference onto a bear?
I think I would call it displacement. Transference is like when like the feelings that are elicited in a person in an interaction that um people talk about it different ways, but you could say that like it informs that, oh, this is a situation or like a state that the person I'm talking to gets into with other people. So there's like, it's not only our experience right now, but it's also like, um,
Like it's activating some sort of relational programming that they've already
yeah, well
enacted
said.
with other people.
Well said. Yeah.
And then displacement is what?
Displacement is that this guy's horny for a grizzly bear, and yeah, how did that happen when he had this nice woman from medieval times, which
He
I
had
don't.
two, yeah, girlfriends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but no, he like there's a scene. Well, first off, I think the part that that touched me was when he's like alone talking to the camera, and
Hmm.
it was
Blair Witch
just
style.
yeah, yeah, when he Blair Witched it. But there was something about it that was just like I could feel it very physically and viscerally, you know,
Yeah.
that human loneliness. But then there's also a scene where like a bear takes a shit and he goes up to it and he's like touching the bear shit and he's like, this was just inside of her. It was inside of her. And he's like getting around and it's like, yeah. I mean, we all know what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Do we? I do not know what is happening that he's like so into the bear shit. I mean, I have ideas, but
I
um
mean, it makes me feel like I don't know. I wonder if like this might be like completely off base, but like I've thought about types of death. Oh, that reminded me of something I wanted to talk about, but death. You know, yet again.
that's that's where we started from,
My
and that's
favorite
where
topic. But like,
when people really reacted to, we're drawn to this when we started around death. I mean, people like someone called me sort of, I think I told you, kind of breathless, like, oh my
yeah.
God, like so I think it's a welcome return.
I mean, like if one could ask him after the fact, was that a good way for you to go out? I wonder if he would maybe say yes, you know, given that his experience with the Bears was so deeply like erotic and obsessive, like to finally be consumed by one, regardless of like the absolute animal terror and pain you would experience in the moment. I wonder if metaphysically he would say, if he could look at it retrospectively, like, yeah, like that was a good way to go out. But the bear killed his girlfriend, who was a completely innocent party therein. So that's sad.
Yeah. I mean, that someone would, what comes up for me is about like someone whose notion of love and connection is about being connected to things that are so brutal and like foreign and
And
demonic.
dangerous.
Yeah, extremely dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes me just wonder about his life.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite movies. That's like a good test to see if someone sucks or not is to ask them if they like Grizzly Man and if they like the movie Spring Breakers, which is my other favorite movie.
I gotta watch it. I haven't seen it. I mean, I
Oh,
remember about it, but no, I did. I remember
gorgeous.
his name. Uh, he had like a grill in it, right? I can't remember his name right
James
now.
Franco.
Yes. I
Yeah,
went to
yeah,
see James Dean, which is
yeah.
probably
I
like
used
that.
to teach that movie I used to teach in the English department at Vanderbilt. And I taught that movie every single year I taught there. I shoehorned it into every class and they fucking hated it every year, which is so interesting to me because I would time it. When I taught in the spring semester, I would time it to be like right before they went on spring break because that's what they do, like that's very Vanderbilt. But
Yeah.
I assumed that they would have some sort of like connection to it, but they found it really unsettling and they found it really off-putting, which was like, I don't know. I feel validated. What they weren't traumatized or anything, but I feel kind of validated that it had that effect on them,
Yeah, that it would rattle them. It is good for us to, I mean, it's hard to be done. Like things that are traditionally thought of as spooky are often not deeply like disturbing in the way that it sounds like these people
Well, it's a
were.
movie that's very much about power. And I think that those kids are averse to thinking about power in that way, because they are from a lineage of much more covert power, so like these are like often the kids of like the ruling class, or just like wealthy people in general. And I think that Spring Breakers is about like very like, hello, Prudence. Is that her name?
That's right. Sorry.
um it's about like really atavistic and sexual power, and they didn't like it. They didn't like that.
And I think these people, if I remember the movie, were kind of, drifting and abject again. I mean, like, and the desire that I imagine the students would relate to in some way about going on spring break would probably be disturbing to see it in that sort of disgusting.
It hit a nerve. It absolutely hit a nerve in a way that nothing else I taught them did. It was the one thing I taught, and I taught some other like weird shit that they were totally fine with. But I had them read like Charles Burns and just stuff that they had never encountered before.
I don't know Burns.
What?
I don't know Burns.
He's a comic artist, but he does a lot of like horror stuff. But they loved that. But Spring Breakers was the one thing that they really, really, really didn't like, so I just kept teaching it, which was fun. But
oh, I've read some Burns. I read the Hive.
Yeah. Wait,
Googling
that's a trilogy. Did you read the other ones?
I don't remember. I just whatever they had at the library. I think it was all of them together.
That's the one that looks like Tintin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's about like I was just about to try to describe it from like some sort of plot based. It was literally impossible. Okay, wait, we're still on question one, which is what do I think of Halloween? I'm gonna do one of my questions.
Okay. Question time.
Should I start at the top one?
Whatever.
Okay, I have a question. So I think about this a lot about myself, about others, but like, do you feel like you have a sense of how other people perceive you? Or is it something about which you feel in the dark?
What a question. What a
technical plugging in of power supply. There we go.
The question was so intense that
it drained my battery. Yeah, my computer was just like combust.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, what I'm thinking is that that inquiry more often I find out kind of what story I'm telling myself about the story that I think they have about me than like actually knowing.
What's the most common one that you think people have about you?
What?
Like, how do you think people perceive you most frequently?
Oh my God. This is getting gnarly. I mean, uh, yeah, it's nice when it's copacetic, when we are, when we feel safe with each other, known by each other. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, I mean, definitely there are stories that I get confused about around like uh gayness and like is that transparent or not? And that's been
Yeah.
or less important to me at different times in my life when that was like more or less threatening. uh what else? Like,
Like in a way, like, do they like, oh, do they know I'm gay because I want them to know, or do they know because I don't want them to know?
good question. Yeah, it just, that's one of the stories that gets really confusing really fast,
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
suddenly becomes, oh, I, of course people know, and then, oh well, wait, uh maybe they do, but maybe for my own sake I need to just clarify so that like my mind is back online now or something. What else? I mean, what else? Like, uh I don't know. I wonder sometimes, like, navigating like different, you were talking about subcultures, like different subcultures that I feel a part of,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
trying to, or like times when that has felt like it has come between relationships. More often it's people who are kind of straight-laced that can't sort of uh tolerate like the freaky, like the John Waters.
Yeah.
Um, but uh so yeah, I don't know. What an interesting question.
No, I wasn't trying to I wasn't trying to intimidate you.
It just naturally, because I mean, such a penetrating question. It's like very
Do you want me to tell you how my first
yeah.
impression of you when I
Oh,
met you?
sure. Let's do it.
So you reminded me very much of like an Evelyn Waugh character.
Oh yeah.
Um,
One of my exes told me that, actually.
really?
Keep going. The one who,
That's so validating. Whenever someone else perceives something that I do, I love it. Like you have the affect of just like someone directly out of an Evelyn Waugh novel.
someone preposterous and hollow. Like,
No, no, more of a bride's head, more of like when he tried to be sincere, you know? And but also at the same time, you seem to have an affinity for like things that I associated with like a completely different type of person, which was like outdoors. Which was like the opposite. And I struggled, I think, when I met you to reconcile those two things because, like, on the one hand, you had this like interpersonal affect of someone who's very like ethereal and like effete and mysterious. But then also, I could tell that you like went camping and shit. And I was like, I've never met someone in which those two traits coexisted.
how interesting. I mean, my first thought, and it's probably just a default explanation, but I wonder about Oklahoma, if it's this in between sort of, there's like, uh, the Southern mannerism, uh, or whatever Oklahoma is. It's kind of nowhere. It's in between.
Yeah.
It's not quite Texas, not in the Confederate South. But
But there's some sort of like gentility culture or something. Like,
yes, which comes with a and the gentility culture. There's the joke about the like God bless them, like that. There's this sort of false, false friend where at the church that well, God is love and God's like about to like destroy people because of what
yeah.
it um and not like totally irreconcilable ethics and values that somehow I think,
Which is
probably
what Brideshead Revisited was about, to be fair, even though it was about Catholicism rather than Protestantism. Maybe
yeah,
that's what I was sensing.
maybe, maybe.
Deep religious guilt.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to be honorable to God who is watching at all times.
Fucking pervert.
Yeah,
He's
yes.
always like,
The perversity of God.
I had
That's
a
a
lot of like obsessions. I also, without going too much into it, was in like a psycho fundamentalist type of Christian environment into which my parents were recruited in a way, even though that wasn't how they had grown up, and it's that they later abandoned it. But they were really obsessed with the rapture at my school. And
one.
they showed us the Left Behind like mini series without qualifying it as like speculative. They just told us, and it was they were really obsessed with Y2K. So this was like 1998. They started being like, so the euro was introduced around then, and there was like the build up to the introduction of the euro, and they said that was the one currency mentioned in the book of Revelation. So that was one, and I was in like fourth, fifth, sixth grade when this was happening, which, to be fair, is a little bit old to be that susceptible to this type of shit. But I had been raised in such a batshit environment that I was like somewhat impressionable.
I mean, that's when I mean, maybe just because I grew up in some like in a kind of way like that. That no, at that age, I mean, you still are dependent on authority figures to define reality for sure. So, and it's so screwy when people are defining reality in that way that
Yeah.
yeah.
So I spent a good year just like waiting for the rapture. I mean, daily, like minute by minute. I'm sure if I had ever been allowed to see a psychiatrist, they would have
I don't know,
done
maybe they would
something
have been
about
in
it.
on it. I used to, when I was mowing the lawn, I would be afraid when I went back inside, my family would be raptured. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I used to think that if I slept at anyone else's house, like if I went to a sleepover, my family would be raptured while I was gone.
Yeah. Just like their
And
piles of clothes and like fillings from their teeth.
yeah. And I'm actually not even sure. I've read the book of Revelation. I'm familiar with like that era of Christian theology. I have not read the Left Behind series, and thus I don't know to what extent. I don't actually know the thesis of that narrative.
I
So
read
whatever
some
was
of
being
them.
pitched to me was directly from those books, and I'm not quite sure what they were saying was how they took the premise of the book of Revelation and applied it to a modern context. So I think I filled in a lot of those gaps just on my own in my head.
Nikolai Carpathia. I read like half of them. I think I lost my religion and like maybe gained a taste for something other than that partway through. But I read some. They
You
were
did read them.
yeah. Yeah. I
Should I
mean, what
read?
else is
Maybe I'll read
there's
them.
you're not allowed to read anything else in some of those sects or whatever. Like it's like that and Frank Peretti, these books where like like people like get a crush on someone and then demons start appearing in the streets and stuff.
So that's one critical difference is that, and I was just telling someone this, is that when I was a kid, the only area of my life in which I had total liberty was what I was allowed to read. Like I was not stopped from reading anything whatsoever. So my worldview as a child was like pieced together from like whatever books I could get my hands on. Um, which like for a long time it was like old serialized French novels, you know? So it was just like nothing that could serve me in any way in any contemporary context.
like what kind? I don't know what that
So
is.
like Alexander Dumas, after you go through the main like Three Musketeers, etc., he and his son wrote these just like kind of like phoned in other books that were serialized in newspapers and are just very formulaic and shitty. But
Wow.
I fucking loved them. They were great.
Yeah.
And I read like Wilkie Collins and stuff and
Wow.
Shakespeare. I went to Shakespeare
Mhm.
camp. but it was disappointing
Yeah.
because it was mostly like theater kids, and I had no interest in theater kids. I hated them. I like wanted to like study Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You know?
Not like fight over like some
Oh, and I
imaginary
need to
first.
say my most deeply held belief on earth is I am an anti-Stratfordian in the Shakespeare authorship controversy. And I would love at some point to do a full episode or series of episodes thereon. But
Yeah.
I signed the Declaration of Reasonable Doubt, and I am absolutely against the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust's campaign of propaganda.
On the
Um,
record, let it be
yeah,
known. Does that
yeah.
mean that like for because I don't know exactly what that means. Does that just mean that you don't believe that one individual named William Shakespeare wrote these things?
I don't know who wrote them, and most of the most like respectable anti-Stratfordians, one of them is actually Evelyn Waugh's grandson, Alexander Waugh. He
Wow.
and then the actor Mark Rylance and a woman named Diana Price who wrote a really good book. um a lot of the doubters, the one of the cornerstones of their philosophy is they don't propose an alternate candidate
Oh,
because
that's nice.
there's not a lot of evidence. But what there is a lot of evidence about is that there was a man from Stratford named William Shakespeare, and he was in the theater industry in
I
London.
love that. William Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah. And he was a play broker. And so you could think of him kind of like a Hollywood producer, like a Harvey Weinstein type. And he was a real character too. Like Ben Johnson hated him, like
Huh.
notoriously.
Did he,
Um,
so they don't propose who else wrote them, but they say it wasn't
so it
Shakespeare.
wasn't him because he was demonstrably illiterate for one.
Huh.
So like when he died, in his will, he left no books, no desk, no anything. I
He was
can
just
go
like a
in.
Homer kind of guy where like it got attributed to him.
Yeah, and at some point I'd love to go into all of this, but I could rant for like 3 hours right now. But the short story is his existence is not disputed, and his involvement in theater in London at the time is not disputed. But the author of the play simply couldn't have been this person.
And the
So
poems and stuff, like none of it.
most of the poems I think folks will attribute to Edward de Vere, who was the Earl of
Huh.
Oxford. The plays themselves, I have an affinity for like multiple authorship, because for me, when I watch something as like absolutely ass stupid as Midsummer Night's Dream, which is just not a good play, compared to something like Hamlet, which is like so meaningful to me that it's like stopped me from wanting to kill myself. I just can't picture those being written by the same person. You know,
Interesting.
like as like just knowing how writers operate, I can't accept that the same person wrote those two plays. Or even another good example is Richard II and Richard III. Richard II completely fucking sucks. It's just like this tedious procedural drama. And Richard III is like this like intricate, like psychological, like
I'm getting
just
into my
kind of
documents.
dreamscape. What?
I'm trying to, my computer doesn't have it. One of those uh I really liked. I
It
wonder
was
which one it
probably
was.
Richard III.
Hopefully, yeah, it must have been because it's uh
I can't see any reasonable human enjoying Richard II. Um,
interesting. The ones with like what's his name? He has the big jolly friend. And he like goes into hiding as like a to like
oh,
get
that's
people.
not one of the Richard. That would be a comedy.
I think it was one of the Richards. He goes into hiding to like figure out the people's opinion of him as
No,
a,
that's Measure for Measure.
maybe it's both. Well, I trust you. I'm like
Maybe
distant
I'm
from.
wrong. Watch me be completely wrong about everything right now. Hold on.
We've gone
We've
places.
done 2 questions. How
You
long have we been recording?
come out as a strong medievalist. What have I come out as an Evelyn Waugh character?
Yeah. Hold
We're
on.
Googling. This is the part in the short.
No, no, you're thinking of Measure for Measure. I'm nearly positive. Yeah. That's a good one.
Gloucester, Clarence. Who's his jolly friend, his big friend who says
Falstaff? That's
Falstaff?
from which play has Falstaff in it?
Because that's the one I'm thinking of. These are okay. Oh, it's Henry. It's Henry. It's not Richard.
Yeah.
Henry
Hold
the
on.
Fourth.
Henry the
Henry the
No, Henry V is the war one. No, maybe that's
and Henry the Fourth and the Merry Wives of Windsor, says Google.
yeah. I hate Merry Wives of Windsor. That's another one that sucks.
I don't know that one. But I think the fourth is the one that I liked. But anyway, that's a whole. Now we know, sort of.
I like when this like deteriorates past the point of like knowledge that I can recall without source material in front of me, and we get to the point where I look like a total moron, and you're very gracious about it. I feel like that.
Oh my God! No, you were all over it. I started referring to someone as the play with the jolly guy.
I will say that after our previous episode, when we were talking about Freud and like the Viennese bourgeoisie, I ordered 2 books about it that have not arrived yet, but because I got frustrated at myself for not having more information on that phase of his like career and what happened. So I'm going to know more about it soon.
Oh, I want to hear.
Do you want to do another question? It's your turn.
Okay, my turn. Questions. I'm gonna go with question number 2, which is when did you get into Crocs, which I believe you told me you're wearing presently.
Okay. So yeah, I got some Crocs. My friend Hannah was a very convincing person, got into Crocs like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And this was actually the 4th pair of Crocs that I ordered. And each of the 3 previous pairs I sent back upon receiving them because I was just appalled and I couldn't do it. Wow. There was something like uncanny about them and I had to get rid of them. Like I needed them out of my house. So
wait, Hannah's been into them since like 2015 or something, and she's been like proselytizing to you, like
she was for a while. She doesn't wear them anymore. She was though at the time.
She's like, okay.
And she did her master's thesis. She did her field work at a PF Chang's in a suburban mall in New York, and it was about like labor, and it was like a sociological thing, on like labor practices at PF Chang's.
Really dope.
It was dope, but she was working there. She had to get from, I can't remember the professional association, but you know how like you usually have to disclose to your like research subjects that you're researching them to like pass a peer review. She had to get some sort of dispensation to do it functionally undercover, and I can't remember what that process was, but so her coworkers at PF Chang's didn't know that she was studying them. She just got it like a job, you know? Wow. And so she just worked there. And because she was working there, she was getting a PF Chang's paycheck, and it was like right next to the Crocs store in the same mall. And she was like so jazzed, and she was like, I'm gonna blow all my money on Crocs. She had several pairs.
She just like got fixated on the things. It was how she would like get so tweaked out at PF Chang's doing this secret, this I'm not who you think I am research, and she would go blow her cash on Crocs.
Yeah. Her brother is like her at the time was working as like a chef, and we wanted to make him a shirt that says my sister works at PF Chang's to wear to work. We never got around to it, but no, it was that was a funny time. There was also
go. He was a chef elsewhere. but he was just
Yeah.
gonna like
Like a
rock.
fancy restaurant in San Francisco.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll
Um,
that can be our merch. Is
yeah,
Hannah?
yeah.
Hannah
My
works at
sister,
PF
yeah,
Chang.
that would actually be
My
good.
sister works at PF Chang.
Yeah, that's actually great. We should do that. Um, there was also, while she was working there, these two Romanian guys building this like weird surveillance play castle called Trombi's Tower, where like kids could go in it and parents would monitor them on an app on their phone. It was so
Oh,
weird. We should, oh my God, let's have Hannah. She got really into it. We should have her as a guest to talk about
yes.
Trombi's Tower at the mall
Yes.
in outside of Syracuse, New York.
And
Oh my God, I'm
surveillance
stoked
and
on that.
parenting and yeah, done
Yeah,
deal.
let's do that for sure. Crocs. Okay, but then I was thinking about how like Crocs are, and I don't know a ton about sartorial history, so this is basically impressionistic, but like I was thinking how Crocs are the only things I, as a layperson, could think of that have gone from low fashion to high fashion rather than in
Huh,
the other direction, you know,
huh.
that with the caveat that aren't associated with like hip hop and street fashion, because I think a
Oh,
lot of that
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
gets
yeah.
co-opted by high fashion. But in terms of something that started out with like no subcultural cachet, like they were just worn like
Mhm.
by like nurses and stuff, you
Yeah.
know,
I
and
think of
we're
like
like,
foods doing that a lot. People go on and on about like, oh, escargot or like lobsters or whatever, like these certain cuts of meat, and now they're like, but and I agree though that I'm gonna rack my brain now to think about fashion.
yeah, but so like if you look at the trajectory of the croc, it started as an object of derision, like
Yeah.
completely, remember?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
it
yeah.
was seen as like a symbol of our complete like sartorial downfall as a society and as Americans. And it has now like made its way up to high fashion, which I've never seen anything else do.
Hmm.
And I understand that it's roughly shaped like a clog. However, something I think about it that was initially so like uncanny to us that made us reject it was that if you think of like the history of footwear, even going back to like archaic Homo sapiens, the
We're with
material
archaic.
design is like roughly the same. Like it's some piece of fabric or
Hmm.
leather tied onto the foot, or like
Mhm.
fastened to the foot in some
I
way.
had no idea that this question would get us to the dawn of
The dawn of man.
footwear. Keep going. This is
So
like,
like, and then you trace it through all different like cultural traditions in the West, at least.
Mhm.
The caveat is this absolutely applies to like Western Europe and America, but
Okay.
and like there's a lineage of footwear that you can follow, and Crocs just emerged like fully. The foam of which they are made itself was a proprietary product, so it
Huh.
was like a material that had never been used before. The design was something that was fundamentally like almost digital feeling, like it
Yeah, definitely. Like
wasn't drawing from
printed,
a previous cultural lineage. And
like
so I
sure.
think, because if I look at a croc now neutrally, I don't find anything inherently ugly about it. But I think at the time they were introduced, they were so uncanny to us because we were supposed to categorize them as footwear. But in our brain, as generalists, we couldn't accept that because everything about them was completely novel, And I think introducing that type of novelty causes that kind of like visceral aversion.
That's
So
really interesting. I think there's something to that. I also, I mean, I don't remember how you put it earlier, but there did seem to be kind of a like a class notion about it too, that like,
oh,
um,
absolutely. Yeah.
but then they're so functional that people kind of we all kind of like the Men in Black sort of amnesia thing, just kind of forgot that this was
Well, and I think we got used to them. I think it was habituation actually more than
Mhm.
anything, because we're struck by the uncanny, but a few diehard people just keep fucking wearing them because they like how they feel squishy. And so that exposure habituates us to the notion of like they're being a part of our material landscape. And then like we start to like interact with them and touch them. Hannah got some. I put my feet in them and I was like, okay, I know this is a new feeling. But I think that's why I ordered them and sent them back so many times, because I would get them and I'd be like, I can't fucking do this. It was like I just, they fit fine. They look whatever. They look normal. They look like Crocs. But I was like, I can't do it. And would send them back. And this pair, which I got during the pandemic, which is a time of great psychological transformation, I know for myself and probably a lot of other people too.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking what effect the Trump era, when sort of the tone overall was highly shifted, as well as then the pandemic, when our standards of comfort and function were really different. Plus, what you said about habituation, now there's so many other versions of them that it's like this whole group of, foamy, plastic, weird digital shoes.
Yeah. I'm fond of them. I don't know. One thing about wearing them is I think people are at different levels of acceptance. So I think they signal different things to different people. So I think people in our age cohort are chill with them. And I think boomers are chill with them because boomers just love boomers will wear like socks with sandals. So they're just like, yeah, squishy or whatever. I think Gen X really.
I don't wear socks with sandals. I wear socks with my pseudo Crocs.
Socks and Crocs.
Socks and Crocs.
I like the socks and Crocs look. Are you allowed to wear them at work?
I've seen folks wearing them at work. Again, during the pandemic, I think a bunch of them were given away for free, actually. And so they became very popular. Yeah, even otherwise sort of stiff upper lip people, you'll scan down and it's like, you got Crocs going.
Yeah. Did you ever experience during the pandemic the thing where people bang pots and pans at you for being a doctor?
No, I didn't.
You never got that?
No, I saw it virtually. I mean, we all were going through it and losing it, trying to find morale.
Yeah.
Did that happen anywhere you were, whether Baltimore?
No, I never saw it happen, but I was sitting.
You're not in Baltimore.
What?
You're in Detroit.
No, I'm in Baltimore.
You're in Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah. Josh is from Detroit. No, I was sitting. So I've been waking up at like 4:45 every day. I had one of my, little episodes. I was on my little mental health leave. We didn't record an episode of this last week, but I've been having my little moments. But I was sitting.
Which, like, I mean, you mentioned that, and I don't know if we go there or not, but it makes me curious, like, what you've been up to. But maybe it's just a thing to.
I think it would be kind of tedious because it would just be a list of symptoms.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would find any interest in it. But so the sun was like barely coming up, and I was sitting on my front porch smoking a joint, and a girl a couple houses down pulled up. I guess she was I don't know her, and she was getting home from work, and she was wearing like scrubs and stuff, and was like clearly a nurse. And I was just sitting there like a fucking grungeon, smoking a joint, doing nothing with my life. Well, she had just like clearly worked like a night shift at a hospital, but it made me really hostile feeling. I was like, in my brain, I was like, oh, aren't you special? And I really wanted to like go bang pots and pans at her, which is just mean, but I thought it'd be hilarious.
It is hilariously like use of that meme. That is super interesting that was your reaction. That there was something you desired about what she was doing.
Well, it was just like she, that's been like the hero figure of the past 2 years, or the tireless healthcare workers. And here I am like on health leave from a job in higher ed, like just smoking weed on my porch before the sun comes up because I'm such a fucking mess. And I was just like, I work in a hospital. That was like my thought at the time. And she's just like a completely normal woman trying to walk into her house. I don't even fucking know her. I'm just like vicious reflexively.
Well, the hero discourse is weird. They gave us like at our hospital, they gave us like lunch boxes that said something like the hero is here or something. And it was like I've used it once or twice just because it's a lunchbox, but I like turn it so that doesn't show. It's like but as well as, and people have talked about this, but what they called it, not necessary, but some kind of employee, like what was the
Frontline workers.
frontline, and then there was some
Oh, essential workers.
essential. Yeah, this whole
Yeah.
course of like who the ways that we were getting carved up against each other a bit was
You were essential.
it was essential.
How did it feel to be essential?
You know what I was doing as an essential worker was doing Zoom visits. I was an outpatient trainee at that time, so
Mhm.
it felt very dark, honestly.
Yeah.
It did feel, I mean, I always feel better when I have things to do, and there were often moments of human connection, but it was very challenged by video was pretty good, phone was really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what were you doing? Oh no, this was one of our rules to not talk about the virus, but what were you doing then?
Working, but just from home.
Yeah.
I work my job was completely doable from home, but everyone was spiraling. I should talk about my job at some point, because it's farcical, but not today, because there's some fraught things going on there that I don't want to I'm sorry. I don't want to place myself in any legal statement out of which I can't.
Sure.
Anyway, I think we're at an hour. Do you want to do more questions?
Maybe just some. I have one that's really tiny.
Okay, yeah, let's do a little one for the end.
Kind of send-offs. Maybe you have one too, but mine is, does Josh really love strawberries?
You know, when I met Josh, he didn't know what a lot of fruits were. Like, he had never had like a fig or a papaya, or there was a date. There were so many fruits he'd never heard of. A lychee. So I think that strawberries are like the fruit he knows.
I see.
And and he really likes like iconic items that he recognizes from his past. And I don't think he likes newfangled things like figs, to which I try to introduce him. So yeah, I think he has I think he also has like a poetic affinity for strawberries that I don't entirely understand. I'll ask him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that went by so much faster than we didn't get to even a fifth of what we had prepared.
No,
we'll do it next time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of material. Oh, and there goes, did you hear my dog?
I think yes.
That's a sign. No, it's Tuba.
She wants the last word.
She does. Anyway, let's call it. I'm on for next week.
Cool.
I'm back and at it. I'm feeling quite a bit better.
Oh,
Are you going somewhere?
Yeah, some friends are getting married. I might be able to
No, we can wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Where are they getting married?
We'll sort it out. Up in the tri-state. We're driving down to Pennsylvania from Jersey. Yeah.
Well, have fun.
Thank you.
I have a lot of questions for when we're back.
Me too.
There will be perhaps an audio version.
Yeah, we're gonna try that.
Yeah.
And then I guess people, you can send us your questions for us too.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to get Hannah on here to talk about Tromby's Tower, because we'll have to go and review our old notes, but she was a pretty meticulous chronicler of what started out seeming like it was absolutely fraudulent, but the construction somehow continued. But no, I think that'll be people are gonna love it.
I'm so excited. It sounds so far out.
All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, adios. I'm gonna stop recording.
and an effervescent desire to enjoy life.
To me, sort of a vibe to me, sort of a vibe to me, sort of a vibe to me, sort of a vibe